Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. Today, I will be reading from the r/EntitledPeople subreddit, so let's jump into it. You pay the rent, the lease is in your name, but your flat is mine. So this happened about 8.5 years ago, and I get reminded of it from time to time. I was on the government waiting list for a house/flat for over 8 years when I finally got a call to go to a viewing. I went to see the flat. It had a small bedroom, a tiny bathroom, a sitting room, and a kitchen. It wasn't much, but it had central heating. My old place was 1 bedroom with high ceilings and no heating. I took 2 seconds to think about it and signed the lease. A week later, I got my keys and started moving a few things in. My stepsister, who I'd stay with sometimes on the weekend, were the same age and would go out together. Then I'd crash on her couch so I didn't have to drive. Always asking if that was okay first, of course. Wanted to come by to see the place before I moved everything in. She lived up the street from me now, so I told her to come take a look. She walked in and started telling me how I was going to repaint and decorate. WTF? And it continued on like this. So, the bedroom is going to be completely Hello Kitty themed. No, I like the color it is. And we'll have Victorian wallpaper in the bathroom. Ha! No freaking way is that happening. Also, who puts wallpaper in a room that's going to be filled with steam daily? You'll also need to change your bed covers every Friday by 5 p.m. and you can't use your bed all weekend until Sunday night/Sunday morning, depending on when we leave. Huh? What? Did I miss something? Well, you know how much I hate my housemate. And well, my boyfriend and I hate seeing him, so we're going to take your place from Friday until Sunday. And you can sleep at my place on the sofa. We need somewhere nice and private to get busy without my a-hole housemate being able to hear. You've slept on my sofa before. It'll be fine. She gave me a huge grin and followed it with, or we could just move in here and pay your rent. And you can sleep on my sofa and pay my rent. Hers was not a government flat, and she paid at least 10 times more rent for her place. 10 times more rent to sleep on a sofa. Wow, what a great deal. I put up with her ranting about how she was going to properly decorate for a couple of minutes, and she was sure to tell me not to move anything else in until she could inspect it and see if it was on her approval list. Needless to say, I kicked her out and blocked her number, social media, etc. She spent quite a while bad-mouthing me, but thankfully, enough people knew how crazy she was, and probably still is. The delusion of this whole thing is just obscene. Firstly, the sister wants to bone in OP's bed, which, ew, but demands it has clean sheets first? Like OP is the one that's gross? God. Then she wants to just flat out trade places like it's no big deal and have OP pay more rent for worse living conditions. Great googly moogly. You can't help but laugh at some people's thought process. Did she actually think OP would agree to all of this? As if. I'm glad OP had the sense to cut her out of her life. Being hated for being free. As a 27-year-old male, I have many friends with children, mostly in the toddler age group, as well as many friends without children, like myself. Now, don't get me wrong. I love being the fun friend/uncle/friend uncle, but I've always stood firm in my decision not to sire children. To that end, most of my friends with children have grown to accept that, and we just don't bring it up. No cause to, right? I think my friends just expect that one day I, and whoever I may be courting, will announce a pregnancy, to which end I know they'll be disappointed, but that's okay. See, being a single, childless young man, I naturally have quite a bit more freedom in life than my friends with children. I can still live life on a whim. They can't. I can roughly predict what the next 2 weeks will hold. They can't. If I want to have kids later in life, I can reverse that decision. Would likely adopt. They can't. To that end, most of my friends with children are still wholesome and loving friends. They love to see me traveling to exotic places, and they adore the small trinkets and likely stories I bring home with me. One set of friends, however, has shown their true colors lately. See, over the last few years, I have helped them left, right, and center. financially. I don't mind because they have mouths to feed, and I know how it feels to struggle, so I don't want to see my friends and their children doing the same. The most notable expense was the $1,800 I shelled out to literally buy them a running vehicle. Bear that in mind, that $1,800 will be important later. The friends in question have a 3-year-old together, and the girlfriend has a 9-year-old from a previous relationship. This couple in particular has turned very bitter to me lately, almost as soon as they found out that I'm planning a month-long trip to Brazil in June. My friend's immediate response was, "You should be saving that money so you can buy a house and start a family." I replied, "I have no interest in reproducing, and I'm not ready to set an anchor. We've discussed that." And his girlfriend pipes in, "Yeah, whatever. Must be nice to just fly all over the world. Maybe one day you'll know what it's like to be responsible, instead of only thinking about you." Excuse me? Excuse me? I've worked my fingers to the bone to save for this vacation, and all my previous voyages, and to that end, I'm not done yet. I've been strictly budgeting my money for over a year to make this happen. I even gave up both cigarettes and soda to save a few more dollars per week. No eating out, no buying video games, basically nothing outside of the essentials. I work more hours per week than both of them combined. Not judging, they have kids to care for, but still, I earned this. And then for them to act like I'm a lesser man because I didn't accidentally reproduce right out of high school, to me, that was both laughable and pathetic. Now, even at this point, I had chalked it up to, okay, they resent me for the moment. I guess I understand that, because I know that neither of them have ever gotten to do such a thing, and I do feel somewhat like a jerk that they have to watch me fly off to Brazil, knowing they can't afford to do much because, well, raising children is expensive. But then, they take it a massive step further and ask me to borrow $3,000 so they too can do something this summer. She even whipped out her phone and pulled up the resort they wanted to stay at on Table Rock Lake. As soon as I noticed she'd entered the info for a 14-day stay, totaling $2,400, I realized they had planned to ask for this money all along. I was honestly speechless for a moment. So eventually I said something along the lines of, "Look man, I've been saving for this for over a year. I can't afford to loan any of that money out, or I won't be able to afford to go on my vacation. And to be honest, I still have to recoup that $1,800 I loaned y'all before my plans are even back in the green. So I'm sorry, but the answer is no." And they just lost it. All you single a-holes ever think about is yourself. You have no idea what it's like, and we never get to do anything. Some friend you are, you'd rather go by yourself than help our kids have a good summer. At that point, I simply left without another word. It is clear to me now that all I ever was a piggy bank. In truth, I guess it was my fault for being proud of my frugality and occasionally mentioning my savings. All this happened last weekend, and even today, I received another text. "Are you sure we can't all just go to the lake together? The kids really need this. It's not like you can't go to Brazil another time." And this, friends, has been a hastily written and hurtful example of entitlement. Ugh, good riddance to those quote-unquote friends. Glad OP got to see their true colors, and I really hope he dumps them as friends. The audacity! You do not need to justify your child-free state to anyone. You don't owe this world your progeny. It's not selfish. You do you. What is selfish is having children while financially struggling, then expecting others to pay for them because you think you're entitled to, just because you have children. Of course, though, it goes both ways. Like, if you want kids, that's great. If you don't want to have kids, that's great. But don't judge the other for their decision or expect the other to do the same. Live and let live, that's what I always say. And also, the world doesn't owe you shit. Nobody owes you shit. But anyways, that is all for me today. I hope you enjoyed those 2 Entitled People stories. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!